I didn't understand business. This is probably the start of my business journey. Was right there. That moment when the Great Recession is what they call it happened in 2008. Real smart business people are willing to pay for leverage, leveraging their time and resources to be more efficient. Defense comes natural. Offense is intentional.
Yeah.
And so how do you go grow? Offense is taking territory. It's advancing the ball down the field. Defense is just trying not to give up what we have.
Welcome back to the Wealthy Cowboy Show. I'm Crockett Carruthers, your host. Today we have Kasey Mock. He is a land and ranch realtor, and we're going to get into a lot of that. And I think, I don't know if you've seen, Dan Flashman has a podcast called The Money Mondays. And I feel like we're going to kind of go on that format because he talks about how to make money, which is what you've done with real estate. Talks about how to invest money, which is what you've done buying real estate. And then he talks about giving back to charities. So we're going to get into all that. But first, I want to go back to your background and where did you come from? And then how did you build up to this point?
Man, I was raised in outside of San Marcos, Texas, in Kyle, Texas. Hays County, one of the fastest growing counties in the nation for the last 10 years. When I was there, I was 13 years old. He drive Dad's standard pickup truck to church across, 10 miles of nothing. And now there's 3 high schools and solid rooftops between there.
Yeah.
Little farm family. We had a little hog operation and show goats and showed some steers and hunted and fished a bunch. Just your common blue collar country family. My dad built houses. My mother worked at the hospital. Got a twin brother, Kevin, and a younger sister. And man, just a pretty normal blue collar country family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And did y'all have horses or involved in rodeo or anything of that aspect?
My dad rodeoed until we were really young, and he stopped and he judged a few rodeos. Mostly rode rough stock. Dad's not a horseman. He guided a bunch of hunting trips in the mountains, and they did all that horseback in the 80s and early 90s. And so many of the stories he told me as a kid, hunting stories, involved horse wrecks because they had sorry horses and didn't know what they're doing with them probably, But, they'd be 5 miles into the backcountry and haul their horses and probably do it incorrectly and come back and their horses have run off with all the pack saddles and
they're
stuff.
out in the middle of nowhere.
So they're in the middle of the bushes, and so I still tell my kids those same stories, but... No, we didn't have horses. Man, I grew up, all I ever wanted to do, Crockett, was cowboy.
Yeah.
I think every kid, right, that grows up in America has that dream.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to be a cowboy. We watched John Wayne movies on repeat back before there was DVR. My grandmother, she was single and she lived a few blocks from the elementary school. And she had cable TV. We did not at home. And so she would record John Wayne movies for us on tapes, and then we got there from after school, we'd go to her house and we'd plug it in and we could watch Westerns. Mm-hmm. And then that next day she'd record over that one, record another one. And Dad would send us to cowboy with some guys a little bit. It's probably like babysitting, but there's a few guys over there that ran wheat pasture cattle and we go check those with them. I rode an old sorrel horse with a guy named Dennis Elam that called Whoa. And his name was Whoa because he wouldn't stop, and the adults put stuff behind Whoa. All we were allowed to say was Whoa.
Yeah.
But man, I always wanted to be a cowboy and had some of that in my great-great-grandparents on my dad's side were cowboys down in Beeville. I've got a photo of my great-great-grandfather in 1883 cowboying down in Beeville, Texas. That's where Dad's from. Mm-hmm. And my mother's 4th great-grandfather actually died at the Alamos. One of the Tennessee Volunteers died at the Alamo. So we got old roots in that. That's really all I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. We hunted and fished like crazy, and that's still probably my primary passions today. But we're fortunate we get to rodeo a little bit and rope, and kids love horses. And
so you were just always outdoors, just loved the outdoors, whether it was riding a horse or hunting or whatever it was.
Lots of outdoors. Yeah, we slept in the back of the truck everywhere we went because we didn't have money for a hotel.
Yeah.
But we made it work,
Yeah.
Rich in experiences.
Yeah.
Rich in experiences. Yes, sir.
Those are always fun.
Yes, sir.
It's always, the story behind going somewhere with no money and sleeping on the ground or in the back of your truck are always better stories than we went and stayed at a fancy hotel.
Oh yeah. And all the older men that Dad exposed us to when we were kids, they were all cattlemen and had a good degree of farming in that too. So everybody I was around as kids were cowboys and cattlemen and farmers, good businessmen too, so that was a big influence on me. Dad was really intentional about who he put us around, and and we worked for a lot of those old men, and those old men invested back in us with seed stock for our show pigs and show goats. And my brother's one of the top livestock men in the country when it comes to show goats today, owns showgoats.com, livestock marketing group, showlambs.com, won most of the major shows in the country with sheep, goats, pigs. So agriculture's been really important to us. That's what my wife's family does, farms and ranches full time. And yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it's a super important thing to be a part of. And then like we did like the county shows and stuff, but with some goats, and I think it's cool, whatever aspect you're going to be in, it teaches some responsibility, and you got to go out there and work with whatever animal or feed it, keep it alive, all the things teaches the kids a little bit of responsibility. Back then, growing up the way you did, you probably were already had those responsibilities at a young age, or out of necessity, whereas now you have to manufacture that a little bit with 4-H projects or whatever. If you own a business that sells a product or service in the Western or ag industries and you want that business to grow, go to the link down below, fill out the form, and we'll see if you qualify for free social media marketing.
Yeah, if we didn't kill it or grow it, we didn't eat it at our house. And that was the truth. I mean, we had a big old garden, and we hunted and fished, and we'd raise calf every year, and we raised hog. We had lots of pork, So I bet less than 5 times from the time I can remember to the time I graduated high school and started buying my own groceries, probably less than 5 times my parents bought beef, because whatever we ate, we killed it and we processed it at the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
You had to go feed them before you ate.
Yeah.
Kept us out of trouble too, because you had to feed them in the evenings. You couldn't go party because you had to come feed stock.
Yeah.
That's it.
When you were, like when you're going to graduate high school and go on to college or do whatever you're going to do, did you want to change in lifestyle, see anything different, or what'd you go to college for?
Man, I thought it was my chance to go learn agriculture at a bigger level and be able to rodeo a little bit and cowboy. I started at Texas State, Southwest Texas then, in San Marcos, in the ag school. And man, I just, good or bad, I wasn't impressed with that ag school. My brother had come to Tarleton and Stephenville, and I'd come visit him. It's funny because our last year of our senior year of high school, man, we got in a fist fight in the hallway and knocked each other through the drywall. And I couldn't wait for him to leave, and he probably couldn't wait to leave. And the day he left, I cried like a baby. I thought I'd lost my best friend forever,
Yeah.
And so I'd go visit him in Stephenville and realize that's where I wanted to be at that season of life, So I spent a year at Southwest Texas and then transferred into the ag school at Tarleton. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, Crockett. I managed a ranch for a guy there when I was in college. I framed houses and rode horses for a guy. I had a girlfriend at the time that rode really good horses. I was riding rough stock, rodeo and riding rough stock, and I wasn't very good at it, but was trying it out anyway. But I had a couple people that really taught me good horses and good horsemanship, and just fell in love with it. And so started buying and riding some of the sorriest horses you can imagine, because it's all I could afford to get, or it's all anybody would send me, if I was going to ride one. And studied ag business and ag service and development at Tarleton. Came out. My brother had a teacher certificate. I knew I did not want to teach kids. But I came out of school, worked with my dad. I graduated in 2007 with an ag service and development degree. I'd met my wife. We'd gotten married. We got married as soon as I graduated. She was still a freshman. So I joked that I put my first kid through college at 21, but it was my wife, and she was 19, And it's awesome. And God's been so good there, but that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But yeah, graduated, went into construction with my dad, moved back home and built houses. And first year we made a living. The second year, I think I made $4,000. It was 2008 was our second year.
Yeah.
And the recession had tanked the housing market. But the bigger thing there is I didn't understand business. Mm-hmm. This probably the start of my business journey was right there. That moment when the Great Recession is what they call it happened in 2008. In my mind at that point, we were a victim. You know, it was out of our control. It was the market happened to us. Mm-hmm. In retrospect, I didn't understand business. Dad was a great home builder, probably the best one in that region of the state for building a quality custom home. But he would do every trade. He'd hammer every nail. If we were slow, he'd pour the slab, clear the site, frame it, trim it, do everything. Interior, exterior trim, put the metal roof on, clean it up, everything. To earn every dollar on that job, my mind was always a little different. I always thought, Dad, if we can make every dollar here, but that's not enough to sustain us, we've got to go get another one. We got to go get another one. And that's an intentional activity of going and getting business. And we failed to do that. I didn't know how to do it. I just knew intuitively somebody's got to go get another house to build because we can't survive on this one. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I was forced out of the business. One, because I love my dad too much to go through that with him. Him and my brother are my two best friends. And so there wasn't enough money for both of us. We had differences of opinion on how to go about surviving that recession. Mm-hmm. And so thank God I had a degree in the county extension agent through AgriLife Extension come open in 2009 in Hays County where I grew up. Brian Davis who I still have utmost respect for, is one of the best county agents I think's ever served in AgriLife Extension. Brian was leaving. He was my county agent when I was in 4-H. Brian was leaving. And I applied for that job against 60 other people that were probably more qualified than I was. You had to have a master's degree. It paid $30,500 a year. That's gross pay. That's before your health insurance, 401k, any of that. And I didn't have a master's degree, so I committed to go get a master's degree, which I never did finish. But I committed to do that, so you had to pay for all that. But my wife and I had been praying that God would provide for our needs, and we were praying a very specific prayer, and God answered it very specifically. When I got that job as a county extension agent, it paid to the dollar what our annual budget needs were. Not a cent more, but it paid them.
Yeah.
It paid them. And so in order for us, she was in college still. She was finishing at Texas State, and she was finishing her master's degree at Texas State. And so we had student loans and truck payments and rent like everybody else had. And this was making our budget number. But I mean, we couldn't go out to eat. We'd done Dave Ramsey twice, and we knew we were rice and beans and rice, and we couldn't go out to eat. We couldn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And I love experiences. I love to have fun. My family loves to have fun, and we couldn't afford much fun.
Yeah.
You start learning what free hobbies look like. I was in good shape because you exercised and didn't eat much. But you start learning what free hobbies look like. And through that, I'd always hunted and fished a bunch, and I'd always guided to make supplemental income. I was guiding in South Texas and up in the hill country, guiding hunts. Mm-hmm. And so we started out of necessity. We'd met some really great, successful business people that I was enjoying spending time with. And at that time, I ran a newsletter. I mean, this was way before MailChimp or Constant Contact or Follow Up Boss or any of these softwares you use today. But I just had a long list of emails in my AOL account, a few hundred emails. And I'd email every week or so, I'd email a hunting report out, or it was just a narrative of what my weekend hunts look like. Mm-hmm. Turns out people enjoyed reading that. It's pre-podcast. I didn't have a website, so there wasn't it's probably blogs might have been a thing then.
Yeah.
But the only other place to get good hunting and fishing stories was to subscribe to a magazine at that point. And I was sending them to your email. And we tournament fished a little bit. My dad's always fished at the coast. He's a fishing guide full-time now After the recession, he said, hell with this home building, I'm going to fishing. And that's, we'll talk some about this today, but gosh, why would you live somebody else's life? If you can't have fun, go do something else.
Right.
And I was proud of Dad and Mom doing that. He said, I don't want to fight this. I want to fish. And so he moved to the coast, and he's a full-time fishing guide. He's one of the best guides on the coast. He's outstanding. Captain Saltwater Keith in Corpus Christi. Does a great job. So we were tournament fishing, so we'd write newsletters about a tournament or send a weekly fishing report or whatever. And for me, it was just fun. I enjoy staying in touch with people.
Yeah.
Well, people started reaching out to us about hunts. Hey, where can I go hunting? And I was sending them to outfitters and sending them to ranches. And then I realized you could probably make it. And this is through, I remember Tyson Durfee told you this on the episode that you did, and I finished it on the way over here. And you asked him a question in closing, what's the one piece of advice you'd tell somebody that wants to go be successful? And he said, don't eat for a couple of days. Dude, that was us. I mean, it was, you're wanting to know if you're having ramen tonight or pork and beans tonight, because that's all we had. And we had lots of venison. Now, we never did without protein because I could hunt. I could kill something. But we outside of venison, we didn't have much else going, And so I realized you could make, these ranches would pay you a commission to sell them a hunt. It's a booking agent.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started our first company in 2009 out of necessity. It's called Fever Pursuit LLC. And we booked hunts and outfitted hunts and set up hunts and guided hunts all over the country. And it kept us in touch with wealthy, successful, fun people in that outdoor industry. And we booked hunts all the way until about 3 years ago, and that kind of took a back seat to real estate. It's been a backseat to real estate for 15 years now, but that's what really got us here. People started asking us where they'd take us around to advise them on a ranch that they wanted to purchase, and then we'd come in as their hunting consultant or their wildlife consultant, and then from there started we added the wildlife management side and then property tax management too. So we layered it from hunting. And we're just increasing our wage every time, understand, right? Mm-hmm. So if you read a business book, one of my favorite books is The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And it's just a blueprint. It's just a book of models and systems about real estate. But now I'm a part of a coaching company called the Millionaire Business Network. All it is taking the same models and principles of business, organizational leadership, organizational models, and time management, and financial models, pro formas, and applying those to business. But you could define that. You could say you're strategically removing yourself from every part of your business based on the value of your time. That's what hiring looks like. Mm-hmm. You're removing yourself. As an entrepreneur, you start as just you incorporated, right?
Yeah. And
you're doing everything from the janitor work to the CEO. Well, over time, you strategically remove yourself from every part of your business based on the value of your time. Mm-hmm. What we were doing was we were trying to, by necessity, we needed to increase our dollar per hour wage. And so we went from guiding hunts, and I said, gosh, if you're guiding hunts, you're making $75 a day, and there's only so many days in hunting season. I love the $75 a day, but I was having to use all my vacation time to do it, and it's not very scalable because hunting season is only 3 months long. So then we'd book the hunt and we'd guide the hunt. So we'd book the hunters and we'd go accompany them in camp. And so now we're making 10% on their hunt plus guide fees. That was good. And then they started taking us around looking at ranches, and we weren't getting paid for that necessarily, but then we'd start managing the ranches for them and helping them with staffing and then property taxes. So now we're adding multiple layers. And then that's what led us to real estate in 2010, probably, maybe 11. I met Gary Keller, and through managing his ranch and setting up a ranch for him in Central Texas, beautiful place.
But y'all just kind of came like a one-stop shop for
I was a
basically
one-stop person. Ranches. It was multiple companies. Yeah, mm-hmm. I worked for a company called Plateau Land and Wildlife. Still, I think to this day, they're probably the state's largest wildlife and tax consulting, property tax consulting company. So I worked for them, and I was running our hunting company in parallel. And
I think that's too, like you were around the right people, you had the right clientele 100%. There, and because like it seems to me like from being broke, like you're shopping around prices. Price is a huge thing, Yeah. I can only afford so much.
Yeah.
And then you get to the more successful people, and it's like you were talking about, they're wanting to buy back their time. So if you can save them time, they'll pay a little bit more if you can make that process easier for them. And that you saw that opportunity whether
No
you're
doubt.
doing it on purpose or not. You saw that opportunity, and then you were just around the right people, whether you're doing that on purpose or not. I mean, it all kind of aligned just right to.
Real smart business people, are willing to pay for leveraging their time and resources to be more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
A very simple form of that's valet parking. That's kind of a luxury deal, but you pay people to wash your clothes, you pay people to park your car, you pay people to mow your grass, you pay people to shop. I mean, now you get Favor and what are the other, they deliver your groceries to your house, and all the way to hiring an executive assistant, hiring a business COO to run your company. Max Ramsey, who you met at our event this weekend, is our COO. He's got his MBA from Tarleton. He's brilliant. He does a great job. And so successful business people understand the value of leveraging their time and resources to go do the things that they want to do. Now, here's where you got to define leverage or luxury, because I can hire somebody to mow my grass so that I can make sure I have time to run my business. That's leverage. I can hire somebody to mow my grass so I don't miss the football game on TV Sunday. That's luxury.
Yeah.
And you can have both. It starts off as leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get to a certain place financially, you can have luxury. Here's the difference, though. Most people that don't have a very high financial IQ, or they think scarcity, because a lot of people that are, how do I say this? Poor mindset, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Poor mindset. There's nothing wrong. Hey, listen, I've been broke. Broke multiple times. I was never poor.
Mm-hmm.
I think poor is right here. Broke's in your wallet.
Yeah.
Poor is right here, I believe. That's one of the things I can't stand, is a poor me victim mindset.
Right.
But people that have a poor mindset tend to spend all their extra money on luxuries. They spend all their extra time and all their extra money on luxuries, not leverage. And so Gary Keller would ask you, he teaches a class called Quantum Leap. And he teaches it. My favorite one is when he teaches it to young people, like college students, upper high school to college students that are going into careers. And he'll hold up a pair of nice shoes. You and I could do this same exercise. You could hold up a pair of boots. What's this pair of boots cost? What's this resistol hat cost new? What's a tooled belt cost? What's your Wrangler shirt cost? What's a new, you're driving a Bill Fick Ford. What's a new pickup cost? All that we would know. I bet you could rattle off the answer to all that. If I asked you what a good multifamily investment cost, maybe you know, maybe you don't. Those kids don't.
Mm-hmm.
If I ask them what's compounding interest, how would you factor compounding interest? They wouldn't know. If you ask them a financial question, they just don't know. And see, Gary would say, you've mastered the art of valuing things that depreciate because they make you happy today.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that is you're visiting your money. Every time you touch your money, it costs you. He'd say, I don't touch my money because my money's in stuff that builds equity over time, builds wealth over time. He said, it doesn't matter to me what those shoes or watch or truck costs, because I buy it whenever I want it, because I put my money to work at stuff that builds money. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's a leverage or a luxury. A lot of that goes back to how we think about where we spend our money and where we leverage our time and who we bring alongside of us in business. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we got to that, but
yeah. I was that was a great little branch off, but let's go back to meeting Gary Keller, and you were working for him, and then he introduced you to real estate.
Yeah, I was running his ranch, not knowing that he owned it. It was owned in an LLC, and I wasn't running at this time. I was working for the ranch manager and doing their property taxes and setting up fence work and doing a lot of things that the ranch manager wasn't skilled in, which was great. I mean, he leveraged me to do the things I was good at, and he did the things he was good at, you know. And I asked him one time, his name was Andy, and he was a great guy. And I said, Andy, who owns this place? Because it was my biggest client. I said, who owns this place? He said, Gary Keller. I said, like Keller-Williams? He said, yes. And at that time, I thought it was a local Austin-based regional real estate brokerage. Turns out it's 180,000 agents. It's the largest real estate company in the world, and it's privately owned. It's not publicly traded, which is what makes our company wonderful. But I said, well, what does he want out of this place? And he, gave me some answers. Well, they come here on the weekends and they want private. I said, no. Like, what are his goals for this ranch? I said, I want to meet him. I want to ask him what his goals are for this ranch. And it took me about a year to get a meeting. Andy was very protective of Gary, and that was part of his job, was to do that. But it took me about a year, and I was really persistent, reaching out every way I could and proposing times to meet. And finally, I got a meeting with Gary, and it was on a Saturday morning at the ranch. And Gary walks up, and I was expecting, for some reason, I was young. For some reason, I was expecting him to walk up in the ranch house at his ranch in a business suit, be this big towering guy, deep spoken, like most you maybe think of a broker.
Yeah. And
Gary walks up, he's classic. He's got jeans on, a black t-shirt, and Chuck Taylors. And he goes, "Hey man, I'm Gary." I'm like, "You're Gary." Okay. So I just said, I'm Kasey. Here's what I do for you, Gary. And I said, "Hey, I don't know what your goals are. I've never been told, and this is the first chance to ask, but we talked a little bit about family, and that's classic Gary style. He wants to know more about, he wants to invest in the person first. And then we talked more about family and getting to know each other a little bit over the course of 30, 45 minutes. And at the end, I said, "Okay, Gary, I don't know what your goals are. If you want this to be the best ranch in Central Texas, I can make it that, if that's your goal. If you just want property tax compliance, we can keep doing that too. I just want to know, because if we don't accomplish your goal, it's not good for me, and I enjoy what I do for you." And we wrapped up, and the next Monday, I called Andy and said, "How did it go?" And he says, "Must have done good, because he said to hire you." And I said, "Okay, well, does that mean we renew our service contract? Just want to grow that? What's he want to do?" He said, "No, he said to hire you. You don't work there anymore. You're on this team now." And so that's when I first came to work with the Keller family. And then a couple years later, I was with Gary, and I told him I was looking hard at real estate, and I'd been reading some of his books and getting to know business and finances a little more. And I had a lot more responsibilities with him at that point too. And he said, "Good, been waiting for you to ask that question." And I says, "How do I do that? Like, how do I get into real estate?" I knew how to go get licensed with the Texas Real Estate Commission. That wasn't hard. I said, "How do I do that?" And he looked at me and he said, and it's maybe the best business lesson I've ever learned. He said, "I'll coach you, but if I've got to give you the answers, you're the wrong guy." I said, "Yes, sir." I know what the hell that meant either. All I knew was I wasn't asking for an answer. Yeah. I'm not asking for the answer, man. I'm going to go figure it out, and I'm going to come tell you what I learned. You know? And so I got licensed, and I went and met with his team at KW, and I ran into a little bit of a roadblock, because they didn't have a farm, ranch, or land division at that time. And I knew farm, ranches, and land. I knew property taxes. I knew I had a big database. I knew how that business worked. But I didn't know real estate. And I know the word fiduciary, and I take it very seriously. And I was a fiduciary to my clients. And if I was going to come in and tell them what their most valuable asset, that I'm the guy to hire, I needed to know what I was doing. And they didn't have a farm, ranch, land division. And so I came back to Gary and I said, "Man, I kind of got bad news." I said, "I'm all ready to go and teed up on this real estate deal, but y'all don't have anything for farm and ranch. I got to go talk to some other firms." He said, "Okay, I support you, man, whatever you want to do." And so I went and met with a number of the other name brands that are in farm, ranch, land, and they're great companies. There's 1,000 ways to be in business, because there's all kinds of different personality profiles and types, and mine didn't fit any of those. Some of the biggest names in the country that be household names, I won't mention them, but I didn't like their business model at all, because I thought they were very broker centric, and I wanted a business platform that was going to invest in my growth, and that I could build a massive Disney business inside of, and it wasn't going to limit my growth. I didn't want to be an employee, in other words. I wanted to own a business, but I needed a platform to leverage it off of. So I came back to Gary and I says, "You win." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you got the best platform to build wealth in real estate." I still believe that today. You got the best platform to build wealth in real estate, but you don't have anything for farm and ranch. So he introduced me to their CEO and president at that time, and I shared that with them, and we put together a mastermind group of other farm ranch agents that were with KW from around the country, about a dozen at that time. And we learned together, and about a year later, they started a company called KW Farm and Ranch, KW Land, KW Farm and Ranch. And I was asked to come in and be executive director of that, and I ran that business for almost 10 years, from a startup to about a $6 billion annual real estate company. I built our brands, the Mock Ranches Group, as a KW team in parallel with that. Always did. Gary always coached me to do that. He always coached me from day one, and I think this is the model of a good leader. He knew he would be successful, and he knew the company would be successful. He wanted to make sure that I was successful, and he always told me from day one, "You build your business. Whatever you're learning here, you build your business, and we'll learn from you." because he also knows that as a CEO, he's not intimately attached to the field and to the farm ranch brokerage. Didn't pretend to be the expert in that. And I think as a coach, that's one of the marks of a good coach is when you're coaching people, you don't show up and act like the expert. They are. You show up and ask good questions, and you empower them. They don't know the questions. You help them find the answer, or you ensure that they're actually looking for it.
That's what he meant by
yes, sir.
Don't come to me for answers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He didn't pretend to be the expert.
I think that's super hard. I mean, I have to do that a little bit here. Is like learning to ask good questions, and when I get to meet with high level people, is you can always just bullshit or whatever, but like when you really want to learn something, constructing that question where you can get the most back out of it that's a whole art in itself.
Yeah, I think there's so much in the power of the question. It's where we learn. I teach a lot. I coach a lot. I teach Sunday school at our church at Lincolnville Baptist Church. I coach business owners through the Millionaire Business Network. I coach real estate agents. I love it. I have a podcast, Land Broker Insider, we've been doing for years. But it's really not about the platform or the title of the role. It's the gift of the student. Because when you have to prepare for something, you learn more than anybody in the class. And when you ask great questions, all of a sudden you learn more because now you learn from all their context and all their experiences. It's like reading books. It's like reading books. My coach says, leaders are readers, and it's not because you have to be a reader to be a leader. But for $5.99 in about 12 hours, you can learn the business experiences from the most successful people in the world. Why wouldn't you read a book and listen and learn from them? That's the easy way to success.
Yeah.
The hard path's go figure it out yourself.
Yeah, and I've got kind of a blend of that. I think I like to go experience it. I think that's like the easiest way to learn something is just go experience it and just jump in. But also, if you get a mentor, hire somebody like you to coach you, or read books, or now you can watch YouTube videos all day and learn it, and you can avoid those mistakes if you're smart enough to do that. If you're not, then you're just going to jump in, make the mistakes on your own, and then you're eventually going to learn them. Brad Lee has a book called The Hard Way, and he named it that because he says, these are all lessons that everybody's going to learn in life. And I'm teaching them to you right here so you can avoid them. Yeah. You're going to learn them whether you learn them in this book or you're just out on your own and learn them. But you're going to learn them. And so that's the thing is like you can go learn from somebody and avoid them, or you're going to go do it yourself and mess up and correct.
Yeah, it's like the process of ceiling of achievements, right? There's so many. We have so much access in this digital world. You don't even have to read a book. Now you can get it used to be you had to read Real Estate for Dummies or Cabinetry for Dummies or Accounting for Dummies, those little yellow black books, to get the cliff notes of a bigger publication or get the speedy, which I want that. Like I want the short version. I've got some intuition and some smarts a little bit, and I want the short version to know like what are the macro directional models here that we can refine it to. I think, to say it a different way, innovation without models equals chaos, right? So it's the innovator's dilemma. Do you stay within models of proven models or not? Do you get outside of that, the likelihood of failure goes down. I mean, it'd be foolish for me to go start a real estate company without ever talking to or learning from another real estate broker or agent. Now, I think there could be some success there, but it'd be really foolish. Likelihood of me succeeding would be practically nothing. I wouldn't know what to charge. I wouldn't know what to pay people. I wouldn't know what was appropriate. I wouldn't know what percentage of money to spend in marketing. Most real estate companies way overspend, and so they run really low margins. And instead of putting in effort for their clients and their business in the form of actually selling, they try to just list it and put marketing out there and hope that does the hard job for them so they can be on Snapchat or whatever they do.
Yeah.
But same thing with the podcast. I imagine you studied podcasts, and you obviously studied social media marketing, and you studied digital influence before you launched this, because you far surpassed ours. Ours is 5-6 years old, and you far surpassed us. So, and never studied how to get a lot of followers on a podcast. It's always been value-based, but no strategy.
Right.
So innovation without models equals chaos. And if you see me look at my iPad, I went through a bunch of notes this morning just from books I've read and classes I've been in and been to a lot of conferences. I was reading this that, let me read this here. Most people, when we hit a ceiling of achievement, so it's the entrepreneur. I wish I had a whiteboard. I'm a whiteboarder, but it's the entrepreneur's dilemma, right? A classic entrepreneur, they work out of their sphere of influence, meaning I'm going to go get my plumbing license, or you sell credit card processing, right? I bet you call the low-hanging fruit first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not very hard to do. Once you learn what to say and you've had somebody coach you on what to say and you are familiar with your value proposition, you're going to make those calls and you're going to call the people that are going to be excited for your new venture first. No, it's very non-threatening.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to move to the next level, which is the people that maybe not so well. They may or may not be excited, but now you're confident in your script and you're confident in the value. And you've seen it work too. I mean, I'm not much for selling something I don't believe in. I think we're best suited to solve a problem that we once had. Mm-hmm. And so, it's likely that you've once had this problem. I think we're best suited to serve somebody who we used to be or currently are. And so, but that's the entrepreneur's path right there. You identify a problem that you probably have and you think, I'm going to go provide a solution to that. And you go do it. But entrepreneurs typically if the classic entrepreneur typically has a pretty low ceiling of achievement without models. So we hit that. We bounce off of it, bounce off, right? And then what do? So when you hit that ceiling, you've surpassed all your low-hanging fruit. You've called your SOI, your family, your friends, and even gone one step further than most people go, and you've even asked them for a referral, and you've called those referrals and said, hey, it's Kasey. Crockett told me to call. Crockett suggested that I call you because you may have a need for this service that I'm providing, and he was really impressed with it. Or better yet, I asked you, Crockett, would you make the introduction? Now you handhold me a client and come to me. Now we're really getting into, B-level sales here. But we hit a ceiling. When we surpass that, we hit a ceiling of achievement, right? And one, we've either got more clients that we can service or more leads that we can service, or we just run out. Our pipeline's dried up because everybody we knew bought our service, and now we have no way to go. It requires an intentional, purposeful plan to go get new ones. Mm-hmm. So growth is always uphill. Nobody said it was easy. Growth's always uphill. Growth is intentional. Defense comes natural. Offense is intentional.
Yeah.
And so how do you go grow? Offense is taking territory. It's advancing the ball down the field. Defense is just trying not to give up what we have, right? And so now we've got a decision to make, and so many entrepreneurs get hung up right here, and so many entrepreneurs end up in defense mode forever. They just do what's intuitive and what comes natural to them. They never move to a purposeful business owner. Well, if you ever watch Shark Tank, there's a entertaining way to just study basic business. I'm sure there's tons of entrepreneurs watch it. Mm-hmm. Those guys are there spending their money because somebody else is running their business. They obviously learned business at a high level, right? So how do we model that? Well, when you hit that ceiling, you either need a system or a person. Most people want a person first. I said, gosh, there's not enough of me to go around. I can't make ball games with the kids. I haven't made a date night with my wife. I've got a deer lease and I never have time to go down there. I've got a good head horse and I never have time to go jackpot or practice. Or if I'm making enough money to go jackpot, but I hadn't been on him in 4 months, and so it'd be a waste. What I need is a person. I need somebody to go do some of this work. But without a system or an SOP, standard operating procedure. Trisha, my executive assistant who you met at the party, Trisha says, without an SOP, you're SOL. And we live by that in our business. Everything has a documented system. Because without a system, you bring in a person, but you don't really know what they would do. And so all you really have done without systems for growth is added payroll. You've just added payroll. And maybe you grow enough to cover that person. But now I've just got another person report to making the same money. It's very rare that an entrepreneur makes more true net money in that model than they would have by themselves. They may have a little more time, and that's kind of a luxury hire, but not leverage back to a few minutes ago. It's very rare they make more money in that model without proven systems. And so a system, when I went to Gary Keller when I was out of time, and I said, Gary, I got to hire a person. I've got to have an EA to help me with running your businesses, our real estate company, all this stuff. And he was my coach. I wouldn't go into him as a boss. He was a coach. He said, no. I said, what do you mean no? He said, what would they do if you were even to meet the right person? Because you're going to hire out of pain. You need somebody yesterday. You're going to hire out of pain. Usually when we hire out of pain, we hire the wrong person. He said, it's better to pass a good one than just hire the wrong one, because the wrong one costs you a ton of money and energy. And so even if you were smart, even if you had a hiring process to ensure, which we have today, we have a phenomenal hiring process through MBN. But he said, even if you were to hire the right one, you probably don't know the right one if they walked in there, but even if you hired the right one, what would they do? I couldn't tell him. Well, they'd be busy because I'm busy. What would they do? And so he made me go back and create a business plan, set of systems, procedures, guidelines, and operating manual, basically, that person could take. And so now we have more scale. And what that did is allowed me to focus on the revenue generating activities and the clients. Those are the two things. A great book to put on your list, because I know you often ask about books. A great book is, and I forget who wrote it, but it's an easy read. It's called The CEO Only Does Three Things. And the three things that a CEO, and that's a CEO of a major corporation or CEO of You Incorporated with your job. If you're a W-2 person and you're still a CEO of You Incorporated, the three things that a CEO must control in their business is the people, the culture, and the money. People, the culture, and money. That doesn't mean you micromanage all those things, but those are the three things that you're ultimately in charge of: is the money, the culture, and the people. And so we put systems in place for all those, and it helps you with that breakthrough. You need a system or a person. System or a person. You usually need a system first before you need a person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is y'all's hiring process? Because I know the real estate deal, when I was looking for something to do to increase my income, real estate's like everybody's natural move.
Yeah.
Especially in when it was booming. I mean, you go get your license, you're going to get listings and sales just because it was so hot. And my mind was, in our small town, we have, I don't know, like 10 or 15 realtors. And I'm like, there's too much competition.
A lot of them.
There's too much competition, and a bunch of people I know, like through my network, they're selling all over Texas and all over everywhere. So I was like, there's too much competition. So I found life insurance first. Now I've gone into credit card processing because I don't know anybody doing those.
Yep.
And it's not everywhere. It's something that's necessary, but not everywhere.
100%.
But insurance and
it's probably got a stream of income attached to it. Mm-hmm. More than a one-time transaction, I would think.
Yeah. You're not only as good as your last sale or your next sale. But those industries as well as real estate seem to me like, I mean, I wasn't in real estate, but I can talk about insurance as a big one, is the recruiting. And they want any sales job that is just commission-based. They don't have to pay that person, so they just bring everybody on. And the law of large numbers, there's going to be a couple people that produce.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I want to focus on selling my product. And then if I can onboard some people that are going to be good and successful in the industry, then that's awesome. But how do y'all go about doing that, not recruiting every warm body that can go get a real estate license?
Yeah. Great question. I think as a business, you use your charisma to grow the business, to attract talent, to attract clients, but you have to use your character to run the business. And I think a productive business and a productive environment attracts a lot of productive people. My number one job, to answer your question, is today for the business. Now, this isn't for my clients. This isn't for selling properties that we list, et cetera. But my number one job for the business is attracting talent. How can we attract talent, the best talent? We've been hiring agents in the Mock Ranches group, which is our company. We've got offices from Houston to Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio. My churn over the last 10 years has only been 4. I've only had 4 agents leave the company in 10 years. The industry average is about 35% churn per year. We've only had 4 leave. We hire very slow. And we probably talk to 30 or 40 agents for everyone that gets an interview. And then we'll interview a dozen for everyone that we take to the process of a 30, 60, 90 to see if they're going to make it. And then, about half of them make it out of that to actually become an agent on our team. Because I agree with you, there's probably 60% too many agents in the country. You can look at the percentage of them that actually make a full-time living. You don't see, and how many are bivocational. It's probably my biggest challenge with our industry is how many are bivocational. Our agents are not allowed to be there full-time. They have to show up every day for training. They have to show up every day for lead gen. They have to show up every day with results, right? Because we don't earn, Crockett, in business. You don't earn based on your potential. If we all earn based on our potential, it'd be awesome. Mm-hmm. But you don't. I coached my team this morning. I said, it'd be awesome if you filled out your business plan at the beginning of the year, or we fill ours out in November the year before. But if you filled out your business plan and made your goals, if you got paid up front in advance, man, that'd be great. The problem is you don't, right? You don't. You get paid based on the results of the activities that you put in. Mm-hmm. Based on the results of the activities that you put in, right? And so a day lost is a day lost because you can't do 120% tomorrow. It's impossible. All you can do tomorrow is 100%. So if you only gave an 80% effort today, you can't make that up tomorrow. So I asked my guys that this morning. I said, understand if you're going to wake up on this, what is it, this sixth day of May, right? Mm-hmm. We're in May. 6th day of May, and only give 80%, you just well go the end of the year and adjust your income. And if you do that tomorrow, you just well go the end of the year and adjust it again because you cannot make it up. I hate it when people say, I'm giving 110%. No, you're not. No, you're not. 100 is all you can give. Are you giving that? Most don't.
Yeah.
And I don't every day. And actually, when I was coaching my team, I said, hey, understand the guy that needs to hear this the most is me. So, but back to hiring, our job as CEO of the company or as business owner or as team leader in a company or as CEO, you incorporate is trying to hire the best ranch hand, somebody to keep your kids, your CPA, your banker, your investment manager, your insurance agent, your mortgage broker. Everybody that you do business with, your job as CEO of You Incorporated or of your company is to try to decipher and predict which one of them is going to be the most successful in that role so that you don't get the job back. Because I hired some kids last week to mow my grass. I paid them $100 to mow my grass. They were recommended by somebody else. They did a crappy job. I had to go back and mow the grass a second time before the Derby. Actually, my wife mowed the grass again the day before the Derby party in the rain because it was so bad. They left the gate open. The horses got in my barn and tore up over $100 worth of grain and feed. Lucky one didn't colic. It was a mess.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you hire the wrong person in your business, they're going to make a mess like that inside your business. Trisha, my assistant, she said, you're all about hiring a good old high school boy, aren't you? Why don't you hire a man or a woman that knows what they're doing? Because you don't get the job back. And that's the same with us. Now, we can classify talent in 3 different pools. You can say unproven talent. That's who I hired right there. Mm-hmm. Okay. They might have done a great job. May have had the best intentions.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody you like, enjoy, you trust them, not going to steal from you, you hope. They stole time. Hopefully they don't steal physical things. But they've never proven themselves on the job. Never proven themselves on the job. Very unpredictable hire. Mm-hmm. All you can try to judge there is culture, morals as best as you can, but that's it. It'd be like hiring somebody right out of school. They've got their degree in engineering, but they've never been an engineer. Or they went to Texas A&M and they got a degree in construction science, never done that. They went to Tarleton, got a degree in agribusiness or pre-vet or ranch management, but they never managed one. That's the most affordable hire, but it's also unpredictable. The second level of talent will be emerging talent. And this person's been doing the job and having some success. You look at their trend rate of their finances and their trend rate of the growth of their business and their personal journey, and it's trending up. Doesn't mean they haven't taken dips. We all take dips to learn. But it's trending up over a time period. Great. That's where I try to shop right there. Because I think as a good coach, I can find somebody that's emerging talent that I can afford. I can teach them a better way to do things, or we can learn together a better way to do things. And they can grow and I can grow, and it's a win-win deal. The third level is proven talent. If I've got a really large company that needs a CEO today, and it's a CEO that's going to take us through a tech relaunch or take us through a rebranding or take us through an acquisitions and merger, I don't want to go through that with somebody that hasn't proven themselves. And so that's proven talent. Mm-hmm. Hardest person to find and also the most expensive. Most entrepreneurs and small businesses have a hard time there. The other thing about proven talent is they're pretty set in their ways when it comes to culture and their tendencies. Not likely to change. And I think
they're probably going to bring how they do things over to your company.
It's going to more than likely be a requirement, right? And I told you the three things I wasn't willing to give up earlier: people, culture, and the money. At least visibility into who and what affects the people, culture, and the money. And so we lead generate for talent every day. I think the biggest expense I've ever had in my business is when I met a super talented person and didn't have a spot for them, and they go display their talent for somebody else. Costly. I remember those are scars. They're scars for sure. And so I lead generate for talent. And I've put a lot of pressure on our business to be willing to grow. I told Max and Trish and Elizabeth and Chad last week, I asked them, I said, do y'all right now with where we're at, do you wake up every day with a little bit of anxiety about hiring people because you feel like we're stretched? And they said, yes. I said, well, that's a scary place to be in business if we're not willing to grow if we find the right talent. That tells us you like the money you're making today. You like the hours you're putting in today. You don't want to help any more people. That's a bad spot for us to be. But we all get there when we just run out of time. There's not enough of you to go around. And so it's easy for us to get there. And that's when we have to go back to systems in our business so that we can bring somebody in and you get time back, right? Because remember what we started with the business definition of business, removing yourself from every part of your job based on the value of your time. Mm-hmm. Right. And so if you need to get time back, you just have to identify. It's really simple. If I don't have any more time left, if I've got to get time back so we can grow, or that I can, a lot of business entrepreneurs, when they first start, man, they know they've got one job and it's generating revenue. And man, you sell, hustle, get on the phone, whether you want to or not. You sell, hustle, you go generate revenue, generate clients. And all of a sudden you find yourself in a service job. Now I'm servicing that business. It's all good until you look up one day and you're like, dang, I hadn't sold anything in a while. What's my pipeline look like? And you go look at your pipeline, and it's not there. Well, it's because what you focus on expands, right? And so if you want to have a growing business, you have to continue focusing on the revenue generating activities for a company, whether that's a private company or a publicly traded company. You have to focus on the revenue generating activities. But when you get stuck in the service side of it, which your clients expect you to do, by the way, and so don't misunderstand me. It's not like my job's just selling real estate contracts and not servicing them. Mm-hmm. Our clients expect the highest level of service. But the other thing that we hadn't touched on about hiring is everybody has different traits, right? And so this is part of a hiring process too. Everybody's got different natural tendencies for success. Some people can get up and public speak every day, all day, and never get tired. They never run out of gas when it comes to public speaking, and they get back on the mic tomorrow and go again, and they're good. Another person, you put them in front of a crowd, and they're going to need a vacation for a week afterwards because it just tanks them. They're drained. They can't do it. Same with accountants. Sorry, I got a cold. Same with accountants. Some people can study spreadsheets all day and never get glazed over, never get tired. I can look at a spreadsheet for about 5 minutes. And I want to go the cheat sheet. Like everybody that works with me, from our CPA, CFO, banker, they know I want to look at a 1-page summary of everything in that spreadsheet. I don't want I don't want to have to calculate formulas or know how to work the thing. I want the summary page. And then I'll ask you what I have questions over, and I expect you to be able to explain them. If I say, well, tell me about this, it looks like expenses in this line item are a little bit high because I know what the models, we follow models. I didn't create any of it. I just know for our marketing budget's 20% of revenue. Okay, boom. Marketing's 27%. Show me, let's look into that. Are we getting more leads out of that? Do we spend more because we're actually getting more leads? Where are we at right there, right? And so some people can dig into spreadsheets and never get tired. I hate them. It exhausts me more than public speaking. So we have everybody goes through, if they make an interview, everybody goes through a behavioral assessment. And it's not to find your flaws, it's to find your most likely place of success. Because remember, if somebody gets to an interview with us, I'm very confident they're a very quality person. They're a high achiever. They're somebody that fits our values and fits our culture and our company. I don't post ads on Indeed, so because I just hadn't met too many. There's some, but I hadn't met too many people that are not employed that are the people I want.
Mm-hmm.
There's some, and I don't mean that in an ugly or judgmental way at all. There are some. But most of the people that come work with us, man, they're employed well, and they're an A-team player where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
But they're an A-team player on not a winning team, and I can come bring them onto what we believe is a winning team. And I'm not trying to be arrogant, but we do a lot with a few people. We got about 20 people on the team, and we do a lot with 20 people. We do a lot with 20 people, and they all have very big financial goals, and they all hit them for the most part because we're very specific. So everybody goes through behavioral assessment because, one, we've got to have a pipeline of talent. For any business has to have a pipeline of talent. Football team, they got to have a pipeline of recruits, right? They don't all make the team. One of my best friends, a college football coach, Campbell University in South Carolina. He's coached all over Texas too. Man, that guy's his the head football coach of a Division I university. His number one job was recruiting. Number one job. The CEO of a business is no different. Your number one job is recruiting talent. Because if not, you get the job back and the business stops. If you're director of operations, your assistant, your top sales guy, your transaction coordinator, your ranch manager, if they stop, if they leave, they get killed, they die, they leave, you get the job back. Unless you've got a pipeline of people you can quickly go to stick into it,
Mm-hmm.
And so our hiring process is very long and specific. It's long because it took me a long time to explain it. Sorry.
Once you get somebody hired, what is that procedure that you expect them to do every day? Is it like they need to go out, they need to make so many phone calls or so much stuff online, or?
Yeah, we put them through a very strict 30, 60, 90. Max Ramsey oversees that. I tend to be a little more compassionate to people than I should be. I love people. And so maybe on the front end, I'm not as hard on them as I need to be for their own good, Because remember, I'll preface this. When we hire somebody, we're making a commitment to their family that they can accomplish all their financial dreams and goals here. That's a big responsibility. If they don't, it's no different than you walking to their house on Christmas Eve and saying, kids, you don't see that stuff right there you could have gotten? You don't get that. You don't get it. Because your dad and I, or your mom and I, we didn't accomplish our goals together. I know you thought you were going to get it. You ain't getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a big responsibility when you hire somebody. Plus, they're carrying my name and brand and your name and brand and everybody else that we work with along with them. So it's a big responsibility. So we got to ensure we have the right people on the team, but also that we are doing our job to equip them. You can hire the best player in any position, but without a good game plan, without a good positions coach, they're not going to win championships. We can hire the very best ranch broker, ranch sales agent in the country, but without good training, good accountability, good coaching, and good models, they will not win any awards or have any significant market share in this business. And they'll be very vulnerable to a shifted market and to a recession, And so we put them all through a heavy 30, 60, 90, and they have to start off with, it's numbers of contacts, training. They have to express competency. They have to learn our systems because I don't want them to run into it. I don't want them when they have to go write a contract to have to call somebody else on the team and say, what do I do here? And that bogs this other person already had a full schedule without that in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to express competency and learn competency and be willing to generate revenue for the team, be willing to go do what they promised their family and us that they would do, and that's go sell real estate. And in order to sell real estate, it's a math equation. You got to be in the right number of conversations. In order to sell credit card processing, it's just a math equation. You could tell me, I bet if I asked you, how many conversations you got to have every day, every week, every month to lead to the number of appointments you need that leads to the number of signed contracts that you take for credit card processing. It's no different. It's no different. If I could coach you not knowing your business, I could ask you what's your average sale, and we can look and what's your average sale, what's your average commission on that, or how you make your money. We quickly in 10 minutes I could have a performance. Okay, Crockett, you got to talk to this many people every day. Now we have to have a plan to get into conversation with that many people. Some people it's cold calling, some people it's social media, some people it's different things, but it's just a math equation. And so we make sure they get real clear on that math equation. It's no different than basic training in the military. They should call it essential training. It's called basic training. And the only reason people don't take business basics seriously is because the word basic seems too basic. But it's no different than basic training in the military. Basic business basics, the fundamentals of business. If you do not master them, you will die in business. No different than in the military. If you don't master basic training, you don't master discipline, you don't know how to go in formation, how to clean your weapon, how to equip your supplies, you don't know your marching orders. If you don't master that, when you get into war, you will die. If you don't master business basics, basics of sales, basics of whatever your job is, when you get out there in the real world, you will die. You won't make it. And so our job is to make sure in that first 30, 60, 90, they're very well equipped for success. And we can predict that the promise we made to them, their clients, their families, and they made to us and our employees, we can predict success there, Yeah.
Another big thing that I'm critical of in the real estate deal is when I see these posts and these listings or whatever, and people say, investors dream or investor opportunity or something here. And it's like, well, if it's such a good investment, then why don't you buy it?
Why hadn't you bought it?
Yeah, you're the first one to know about it. So I want to talk on that level. I've listened to some of your podcasts where you talk about you do invest also in different aspects. So if you would talk about like your strategy there and getting into that.
Yeah, when I represent somebody as a buyer's agent, a buyer's representative, I tell them on the front end that if I bring you a property, now you bring me a property, this rules off. You can fall in love with one emotionally and maybe it's the right one for you. But if I bring you one, you should reserve the right to ask me, Kasey, would you put your money in it? And I should say yes. I should say yes. If I'm bringing it to you and saying, Crockett, this is a deal you need to buy, you should reserve the right to ask me, would you put your money in? And that's the principle that I've always looked at. That's the principle I've always looked at. So we look at real estate or any business, your core job. I was meeting with a young man the other day that was telling me, he's got his job and he wanted to build enough passive income to support his hobbies. He said, man, I want enough passive income to support my hobbies. And I said, man, if you're a passive hobby investor, you're never going to be a good investor. Your job, your regular job should support your basic needs and your basic budget. So if you and I sit down and say, without sacrificing your lifestyle, you've got a mortgage, you got maybe a truck payment, maybe not. If you got a truck payment or not, you still got to save for vehicles. You got to replace them on some rotation, right? But you got food, water, shelter, transportation, insurance. My kids go to a private school, so I wouldn't want to sacrifice that. Tuition. We like to vacation a little bit, those things. I wear Fenolio boots. You had Fenolios on your show. I wear Fenolio boots. I without sacrificing any of that. I know what I know what it would cost me. In other words, if I was going to apply for a job, I'd know what I have to make to keep the lifestyle I've got today. Okay, right? So why not use your job to support your basics, and then have your investments support your wealth building, right? And so instead of my lifestyle cannibalizing my investment money, I don't want to do that. That's too many times. That's why people get trapped and they can't invest. As they make a little money, they go buy a new ski boat. Make a little money, they go down to Randy Bloomer and they buy them a new horse trailer. Make a little money, they go buy them a Ford truck. They make a little money, they buy a new saddle. They make a little money, they buy some Carrie Kelly spurs. They make a little money, they buy them some boots. They make a little money, they go on vacation. And all of a sudden you look up and you're a slave to your lifestyle, because now you've propped this thing up that everybody sees, and you can't. You're stuck in your job. Like it or not, I'm stuck because I've got bills next month and I don't want people to know and blah, 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 right?
And a lot of times you could lose that very easily.
Well, sure you could. People say all the time, well, man, sales, that's pretty risky. I think I like my normal job. Gosh, look how many people got laid off during COVID. Look how many people got laid off. You think your job's secure? Ain't many of them secure.
Yeah.
You know, and you look at how many industries are being disrupted by technology today, and that's creating fewer and fewer jobs. I went into a gas station over around Tyler 2 weeks ago, and I don't remember, it might have been a Love's, kind of a small Love's. And there was one employee in the whole place. I'm sure there was a stalker in the back or somebody, a janitor or something. But at the cash register, there's one employee in the whole place. Everything else was digital self-checkout, like at the grocery store, in a convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
Every other Love's I've been into has 5 or 6 people behind the counter. In that little bitty town where I was between Hawkins and Tyler, Texas, I would say that's a decent job to have for a lot of people. Not anymore, buddy. It ain't there no more. Right. And so all that to say, sorry about that. I look at investing as pretty critical. In real estate, we do see a number of deals. I like to invest in business too. But I like businesses that are secured by real estate. I think businesses exist to hire people and own real estate. And they have to, outside of the number one goal, making money, businesses exist to hire people and own real estate, because one of my great friends, he's in the fireworks business. We had some great friends growing up that were in convenience stores. Their wealth was not in fireworks or Snicker bars and gas sales. Their wealth was in the real estate, the community, the tens and hundreds of locations they had on corners. That's where their wealth was.
I think we see that in farmers and ranchers now. You know, they just got by selling their product, their animals or whatever it was, their crop throughout the years. And now you see it get passed down, or whether they want to retire and they sell their ranch or farm, or it gets passed down and inherited and then the kids sell it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about they spent $1,000 an acre and now they can sell it for $10,000 an acre.
Well, how many business owners do you see that live in a big house and they drive new vehicles and they have a ski boat and they have a horse trailer, but they're renting their office location? Bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why you wouldn't own your office and rent it to somebody else. The tax strategy's better. You're building wealth. You're paying yourself. You got one entity paying another entity. It's just money changing hands inside of your umbrella for tax strategy and wealth building. All that to say, I think real estate's a tremendous tool, Crockett. We have bought and sold ranches ourselves, my wife and I, and we have some of our best friends that were at the Derby party the other night. They invest with us, and some of our employees and agents invest with us. I love it. I mean, I think partnerships, you got to be really, really careful. Partnerships are a ship that won't sail a lot of times. In our partnerships, just to give you a way of how it looks, Scott and I, when we buy a piece of property, I get paid as a real estate agent. He's got a construction company. I get paid full rate as an agent. He's got a construction company. If he does work on the properties, he gets paid full wage to do that.
Mm-hmm.
If we hire an attorney, or if an attorney's a partner, they get paid full wage. If I have to hire an engineer or the engineer's a partner, they get paid full wage. So at the end, we're splitting true profits. It's not me and you getting together and saying, well, you got a construction company, I'm an agent. Let's buy this thing together.
Yeah.
You do the dirt work, I'll do the brokerage, and we'll split the profits, because it's never 50-50. It never is 50-50. That's just a good way to not get along with your buddies at the end and have animosity over who did what. Now you're arguing over it, you know? So good partnership documents are so critical. They're critical for surviving with your partners. They're also critical for tax structure. So one of the most beautiful things about real estate is what it can do for your taxes. If you're in a high income bracket and you're paying, close to 40% in income taxes, the number one way, and what most entrepreneurs do, they get to the end of the year and they say, dang, I better go buy me a new truck so I don't have to pay this in taxes. Well, you go spend $90,000 on a truck to save $12,000 in taxes. That doesn't make any sense. If you need a truck, go buy a truck.
Mm-hmm.
If a truck is budgeted in your business, or a truck is budgeted in your personal finances, by all means, buy a truck. Whenever you need it, go buy it. If a new tractor is budgeted, go buy it. But don't go spend money because you think it's not a 1-for-1 savings on taxes. I wish it was. It's not. It's not like I spend $50,000 on a truck and I get a $50,000 deduction on my taxes. No, Not even a little bit. The number one way to reduce your taxable income is through investing in real estate, particularly single family, multifamily, and commercial real estate. The government wants to partner with you. The tax code is, I don't know how, let's pretend like the tax code is 10 inches thick. If you laid it out 10 inches thick, less than an inch of it's in how to pay taxes. The other 9.5 inches is how to not pay taxes. The government wants to partner with you on creating jobs, creating business, creating housing. They have to because they suck at it. The government sucks at managing money. They don't make any money. None. Zero. So they have to partner with people like us. Food and fiber production and agriculture. That's why we get property tax breaks in the state of Texas. We have the 1T1 open space property tax valuation. You probably call it your ag exemption. You actually do have an exemption through ag on sales tax exemptions because you're producing food and fiber. They're trying to make it easy on the farmer. There's farm subsidies. There's farm loans. There's conservation projects. There's NRCS, FSA, cost share programs. But there's also tremendous income tax incentives, whether it's depreciating losses or getting to depreciate and write off against your income for multifamily, commercial, and single family. And it doesn't matter if Crockett Incorporated rents from Crockett's real estate company. You still get it. No different than you renting from or renting to or from a stranger. So why not rent to and from yourself? Listen, if your landlord owns a building, they're probably making money on the building. Let that sink in. You're paying them enough. That they're likely covering on a commercial building a triple net lease. They're covering their mortgage, taxes, insurance, making some money.
Mm-hmm.
But most entrepreneurs don't want to sacrifice lifestyle. They say, well, gosh, I can't afford a down payment to buy it. It's 20% down. I bet I could find it. Not always, but I bet I could find it.
Yeah.
Let me come look in your, let me come follow where you spend your money. I bet we can find it. But our money follows our priorities. And that's okay too. Look, that's totally okay too. Man, I'm all about experiences in life, and I love to do stuff with my kids, and we could be a lot better investors if we didn't hunt and fish and have a barn full of horses that are good. But all that's an investment in raising my kids too, you know.
What are y'all investing? Are you investing mainly in ranches and horse properties, or do you do a little bit of everything?
Our first big investment was in our personal property, not the home that you came to this weekend, but we lived in Dripping Springs or Driftwood. I'll back up. I bought my first house backstage at a conference with Gary Keller sitting at the table the month before I got licensed. I'd already passed my real estate exam. I wasn't licensed yet. It was a for sale by owner. Called the guy from this conference backstage, and I bought it over the phone. $190,000. I owned it 3 years, sold it for $350,000. That was my wife and I's first home. We had a baby. We were pregnant, and we were living in an RV. We've lived in an RV 3 times. I hope I never have to do that again. But we've done that 3 times. Listen, I'm not above anything to get my family in a better position. You know, we don't have to have fancy. We got a beautiful place now, but we don't have to have fancy. We don't require fancy. But we were living in an RV, and I said, I'm not bringing baby home to that. So we got to buy a house, baby. And so we qualified for an FSA loan, and I bought this house, paid $190,000 for it, kept it 3 or 4 years, sold it for $350,000. And I was like, oh my gosh, we made that much money on this house.
Mm-hmm.
Do it again, you know? And so we bought a place in Driftwood, Texas, and we paid $300,000 for it. And we spent about $200,000 in improvements maybe. So we're in it for just over $500,000. And I thought, God, $500,000 in our personal residence. How will we ever afford this? And we sold that place for $1.25 million 2 years later. And that allowed us to buy where we're at and build the beautiful place that we have now. But we bought a ranch around Stephenville in 2020 when prices were at the bottom. You know, the best time to buy a Lamborghini is when they're on sale. Everybody wants one when they're in high demand.
Yeah.
Let that sink in. You know, everybody wants stuff when the media and the news and social media is told you got to have it.
I see that in the cow market.
Oh, yeah,
trading
baby.
Some cows, like when cows are super high, everybody wants to buy them. They're just going all the time. Cow traders are busy. But whenever it's low, you can't hardly get rid of one.
Yeah, we see in our clients right now in late 2020, after everybody realized, you know, COVID wasn't going to tank the economy. Some people lost their lives, and I'm compassionate to that. But the economy rebounded really strong. After the first quarter was terrible, and then it just gangbusters for 18 months. During that, we saw a lot of consumer buying, meaning people leveraging as much debt as they could leverage, emotional purchases, etc. Today, there's none of that. They were buying when it was high and competitive. Today, who's buying? Investors. Cash investors are buying today because things are on sale. They buy when it's on sale. The average consumer buys when it's in high demand, right? And so think about that a little bit. But we bought a ranch. We kept it a couple years, got in a good tax situation in it, had opportunity to sell it, sold it, did well in it. Ranches were really high then. I didn't want to buy another one at that point. And so we 1031'd into single family rentals. Also, when you own farm and ranch ground, you don't, the tax treatment on your income taxes, depreciation is not as good. You can write off against your losses because a lot of farms and ranches lose money, as you know. But as far as the real estate goes, it's treated as favorably as commercial and single family goes. And so we didn't want to go back into farm and ranch when the prices were so high. So we did a 1031 tax deferred exchange, went into single family rentals, bought a group of single family rentals in Stephenville. We bought them all for sale by owner, hustled. My team buys a lot of stuff like that. We hustled and bought them for sale by owner, and we got them bought. It was a win-win deal. We dang sure don't fleece people, One lady, we paid her more than she was asking for it because we told her, hey, this is actually worth more than you're asking for it. And I'm a licensed person, so I've got a fiduciary and a code of ethics to stand by. And so we coached her on what a win-win deal would look like and bought it. But now we're in the process of selling those three. And I don't know what we're going to do next. I don't know. We're opportunistic. I'm probably going to pay our capital gain taxes this time. So a 1031 tax deferred exchange is you can just exchange from real estate to real estate to real estate. It's considered like kind, but that just means the kind you like. You don't have to go from ranch to ranch or commercial to commercial. I can go from ranch to rent house to commercial to oil and gas rights to a beach house to river house back to ranch. It's just deeded real estate is all that means. And it's the government giving you, I'm deferring my capital gain taxes. It's not
you're eventually going to have to pay.
Eventually you have to pay them. But I'm using my money to build wealth because my real estate appreciates every year and I get a tax strategy. The reason the government allows that, to be a little political, the reason the Democrats that don't like it don't understand commerce and basic business finances. But every time somebody buys a house, what happens? They go to McCoy's or Home Depot or Lowe's or Higginbotham's and they spend a lot of money. And they hire contractors to paint and remodel and put floors and roofs on and drapes, and they build cabinets. And every time somebody buys a commercial building like this one, they do a commercial finish out. All that stimulates the economy. It's the number one driver of our economy. If they taxed us every time on unrealized gain, because it's no different than if you handed me 10 cents and I handed you 10 pennies. Did I make any money? No. But if you sell a ranch for one big lump sum and go buy 10 rent houses, you
didn't cash out anything.
It's unrealized gain at that time. If I have it's unrealized gain at that time. That's a 1031 tax deferred exchange. The minute I touch my money, it's taxable. But I'm keeping it in the real estate. It's not taxable until the end, in which time I avoid paying that through the death tax, And that varies with every president. We're about to get a big hit. It's about to go to 40% under, what's a knucklehead's name? President Biden, if he stays in. But we'll see what happens there. So anyway, we're probably going to pay our capital gain taxes this time just so we can be patient and make it. If I find a good purchase, I won't. But I think on real estate, you make your money going in, and I'd rather make a good purchase than I would rush to.
You're not going to try to make a deal happen.
Yeah, I don't want to try to make a deal happen to save some money on taxes. I'd rather just pay my taxes and have that cash sitting there to buy a good deal. I don't know what we'll go into. I'm really attracted to certain kinds of commercial. Industrial's really good. I'd like to go back into ranch. We're looking at doing some subdividing if things level out and doing some designing and building some specs. I don't know what we're going to do. We'll always be in real estate.
Just keep an eye open.
I'm a big, as it comes to an investor, I like things that I can understand. and that I can touch. If I want to go visit my money, I can. I don't like things that are super complicated. So if an investment broker, investment advisor, wealth manager, whatever they call themselves, if one of them comes to me and tries to sell me something that's the big secret that nobody else knows, I'm probably out real fast because I'm not super smart there, and I just don't know if I'm getting fleeced or not.
Right.
And if I want my money, I know how to find a good deal in real estate for me and my clients and partners. If I want it, I want to be able to go get my money immediately from wherever else I've got to get it and put it into that deal because I know that's a good one, right? And so we like to be fairly liquid. I've also learned the penalty of having too much cash on hand. It costs you a lot of money. When the market was really, really, really good, we probably sat on too much cash. And, you know, when you get in a heavy inflationary period, you're losing money every day you sit on that. And so we do have really good investment and wealth advisors, a good CPA. I think if you ever listen to Flatbed podcast, Flatbed's good. He interviewed a CPA the other day in Wickenburg. That was a really good episode. Tom Wheelwright, who has the Wealth Ability Show. Tom is Robert Kiyosaki's CPA. Tom's got a great podcast. A great CPA to me is one of the, if you want to invest or buy or be in real estate or be in business, if you're an entrepreneur, own a small business, you're in the highest tax bracket possible. A great CPA will save you more money than, it's unbelievable. Get a good CPA. Ask them the questions and tell them what you want. If they're not a teacher, go get another one. If your CPA is not a teacher, not willing to explain, go get another one. Yeah, and we've traded them. I've traded a bunch of them, and I got a good one right now, but we traded them, yeah.
We've gone over how you make your money, how you're investing your money. I want to talk a little bit about the event we had at your house the other day and your charity and giving back and your involvements in the different aspects of that.
Yeah, man, giving's a big part of our life. When my wife and I were first married and we made $6,000 a year, our second year of marriage, I guess that was maybe our first full year of marriage. We were still faithful in tithing. So I think, I believe we're called to tithe. And I don't know that that's a tenth of your income given to your local church. I think in the Old Testament it was a tenth given to, that's what it was. I think you're called to be generous with what God's blessed you with. And I fully believe everything we have, whether that's our business platform, our finances, our kids, like everything we have, we're called to be generous with. And so we are. When we've had very little, we've been faithful there and God's always provided. And when we've had abundance, we've been faithful there and God's always blessed. And so we don't look at giving from a scarcity standpoint. We actually today, my wife and I look and one of the first thing we plan in our year is our family time. Started in 2020. I did that. I looked up and said, I was kind of approaching burnout a little bit. And I said, all right, honey, this year I'm stepping off all these volunteer boards and I'm not doing appointments on weekends. First thing we put in our calendars, our family time. Every year we do that. Put our family time in first. And then we put our service time in, or serving our church or wherever we're serving, and the work has to fit in what's left. And guess what? It does. So it's not about how many hours you spend. It's about how effective you are with the hours spent, right? So with our giving, we tithe off our personal income, but we think our business should be very benevolent too. My parents always were good at that, modeling that, being generous, and we didn't have abundance. We never did without, but they were always good at modeling giving and being charitable. And to this day, some of my top clients and coaches and mentors and advisors were the people that bought my livestock animals when I was in 4-H, and they were really generous. They were generous with their finances, but they were also generous with their time. And I think if you're going to give, I challenge you to give your time equal to giving your money. You know, it's giving your money without your time is very different than giving your time associated with your money, showing up, you know? And so we have started in our company, we started a 501c3 called Mock Ranches Gives. What that originated from was our agents and their families would always come to us and say, hey, would you sponsor this? Would you sponsor that? Would you sponsor this? I've got this coming up. Can we sponsor that? What that meant was, to me, what it felt like was, Kasey and Elizabeth, will y'all write a check? I was like, man, Kasey and Elizabeth have already committed our giving to our church and to the charities that we support. So how can we, and I talked to Gary Keller about it, and Gary's like, dude, you got to be strategic in your giving. Like you have to run your giving like a business. You have to be strategic so that you can give bigger. It's not so that you can micromanage it, so you can give bigger. You got to plan for giving bigger. So we started a 501c3 that allows our clients and our agents and us to partner. So everything our agents give to it, we encourage them to give out of every closing. Everything they give, my wife and I match. And so if an agent gives $100, we'll put $100. They give $1,000, we'll put $1,000. If the client wants to give, they can match that as well. And that's the agent's bucket of money to spend. So if they have a stock show, a baseball fundraiser, a women's shelter fundraiser, wherever they want to give, their church, whatever they want to give, if they want to give in the name of the business, they've got that bucket of money to spend, and only a third of it was theirs. And so that allowed the company to give at a lot bigger level. We started a 501c3 last year in Erath County because we were new to the county. We wanted to give at the livestock show. We didn't know how to, and we had been a part of a big buyers group back home at Hays County. So we started the Cowboy Capital Buyers Group. Last year we spent, I think, $80,000 at Erath County on our second year as a buyers group there, just raising money more intentionally. And then the fundraiser that you were a part of at our Derby party was for Texas Beef Initiative. Texas Beef Initiative is a board that I don't run. I'm just on it. Last year we donated beef for about 140,000 meals for needy Texans. The model works really good when you're donating roped out roping steers to us, or old smoothmouth cull cows to us, or bulls that have a bad foot or something. When you're donating those, and I can put them on feed, get them processed, and distribute them, it works. The pro forma works really good. We've got great foundations and donors that support that part of it. Today, there's not very many cattle in the countryside, so we're having to buy the cows, and like Packer bulls are $1.40 something a pound, and it gets really expensive. So we're very strategic in our giving, Crockett. I think it's a good way to give back to your community. I think you need to be thankful and grateful and have an abundance mindset in all things, and giving is an extension of that. Mm-hmm. And we challenge everybody that we work with to partner with us in that. And my vendors, I switched insurance companies not long ago, and my main reason for switching was the guy that I'd been with is a great friend. He hadn't partnered with us on leads or giving in 10 years, and had other insurance companies partner with us on our giving. And I thought, so my rule, and this is our rule, is the businesses that we do business with, the vendors we do business with, we partner with each other on business, and we partner with each other on giving. Mm-hmm. It shows me that they're equally yoked, outside of having common beliefs and doing a good job for each other. Our expectation would do the best job for each other too, but hey, we're going to support each other. Right. You got a fundraiser, I'm there for you, buddy. I got one. We're going to be there for each other, and we're going to support each other in those things. And I think it just keeps us. It's a great way to not make sure business doesn't get shallow and only about finances. Right.
Really build that relationship.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you would, we're running short on time a little bit, but I also we didn't really get into your mastermind and your coaching that you have, if you could kind of touch on that. Have you ever asked yourself why it costs so much to get paid? Hey everyone, this is a show that has a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners on, and the number one rule in business is to get paid, right? If you own a business, there's a good chance you're overpaying for credit card processing, and there's an even better chance that you're getting terrible customer service. At Diversified Payments, we make the payment process simple for both the customer and the business. Being based in Central Texas, we're able to offer business owners personal customer service while saving them money on their credit card processing fees. And we're the only payment company that I know of that's deeply rooted in the ranching and rodeo industries. If you think you're paying way too much in card processing fees, or you can't get in touch with your payment processor when there's an issue, go to diversifiedpayments.com/wealthycowboy.
Yeah, I coach through the Millionaire Business Network, which is a part of MAP's business coaching. Abe Shreve runs that. He's my personal coach. He's in Utah. MBN just take the word millionaire out of it. It's just based on the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, applying those models to business. I coach about a dozen business owners there. We're taking some more businesses in that Erath County area to add to that board. Max Ramsey has a chapter in, they meet in Burnett most of the time, but in that Austin area. MBN's a great group. I can get you plugged in. Anywhere in the country, we've got chapters if you want to plug into that. It's tremendous. I coach agents too. Yes, sir.
What are you listening to? Are you listening to music? You listen to podcasts? What do you like?
Yeah, I love podcasts. I get bored with some. I follow the guest more than the show, I think. I listen to a lot of Rogan, but not all of them. I don't listen to any of his comedy stuff, but he gets great interviews. If he's got a great interview, I listen to it usually a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't listen to any of his comedy stuff or MMA stuff, so I don't just follow Rogan. I like Tyson Durfee's show a lot. I like Neil Dudley's show, The Cowboy Perspective. I listen to that a good bit, depending on the guest. I like the Flatbed podcast. If it's interviewing somebody, I don't listen to him so much if it's just a team roping interview.
Right.
Unashamed with Phil Robertson, who was the Duck Commander. He's got a great podcast. It's usually on spiritual and biblical stuff. I like that one a lot. Yeah.
What are some non-negotiables you have that you do every day?
Man, how we spend our time and money, God, family, business is a non-negotiable. If a business client calls, and I'm respectful with this, but if they call and they want me to give up my God time and my family time to go to an appointment, probably not my client. Now, I've got a great organization that somebody on the team can take care of them likely, but probably not me in that moment. So how we spend our time and our resources, God, family, business, and non-negotiable. I take care of my team, and that's everything from our employees to family to even our animals. I think if you're on the team, you get the best care. My horses are fat and muscular and get way more supplements than they need for no more than we use them. But they're on the team, I'm going to take the best care of them. I'm going to give them every chance to have a long, successful, healthy, productive, maximum performance life, and the same for my kids and my team. I expect the best. I want to work with the best, and to do that, you got to take care of them the best ways and pay them the best and invest in them the best. And so we take care of our team. I'm going to have fun. That's a priority. Everything, man. Steve Jobs said that on his deathbed. He said, if today were the last day of your life, would you want to do it? Would you want to do what you're doing today? I'm trying to remember what he said exactly. If today was the last day of your life, would you want to be doing what you're doing today? And he also said, your time's limited. Don't waste it living somebody else's life. I'm going to have fun. In everything we do, I'm going to have fun. I may get a little on the edge and tense a couple times, but I'm going to have fun. That's a non-negotiable. Yeah, I'd rather not have money than not have fun.
Right.
And then I think another one, you own it, man. Whatever the circumstance is, you own it. Someone on your team messes up, you own it. Who hired them? Who trained them? Who told them what to do? You did.
Right.
You own it. In leadership, you own it. You're on a team that doesn't win, you own it. I love Jocko's book, Extreme Ownership. That's a big one. Man, you can't lay the blame on anybody else. You own it. You own it.
And you mentioned several. That's the next question. What are your top 3 books and then your top 3 mentors?
Top 3 books. The first one's the Bible. Man, you can find everything you want in that book. If you want to read about finances and self-improvement, there's a lot of stuff in Proverbs. I don't think the Bible's a self-improvement book. I don't think Jesus didn't die for you to be the best version of yourself. Jesus died so that we could live eternally with him and live a life as close to him as possible. But most of us want to go live our life and bring God along to shower it with zeros, and that's not how that works. But the Bible, I like the One Thing book Gary Keller and Jay Papasan wrote. One Thing, Surprisingly Simple Truth, Extraordinary Results. And then the MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, just because it's a models book, I can read that book time and time again and just become more refined about our specific business. Yeah.
And then your top 3 mentors?
Gary Keller, Abe Shreve in business. Man, Gary's, been such a blessing to know him as closely as I have. And Abe Shreve, my coach, gets coached by Gary. So it's a continuation of that. My wife is phenomenal at just being the most loving, selfless, focused person, doesn't get distracted, doesn't chase hobbies. Just she takes care of her job as mom. She takes care of our job in the business, and she's awesome. So I get a lot of inspiration from that. She makes me want to do better because I see her stay in the course. I see her committed, and I don't want to go screw around when I see as committed as she is. And then my dad was the legacy my dad left, and I hope this is the legacy I leave for my kids, is he was present as a father. He wasn't the best with finances. He's still alive. He's still one of my best friends. He wasn't a finance genius. He wasn't a business genius. But man, he was present. He didn't miss a practice, didn't miss a game. We hunted and fished, and that man lived to take care of us and make sure that we knew that Dad loved us. Mm-hmm. And man, that's what I want to do. That's what I strive for every day with my kids, is that right there. And I coach my team on that. Your family better know that they're first. Don't you be going to work appointments if your family's suffering.
Right.
You know, it's not just reserved for the boss. Yeah.
And we've been pretty deep, and there's a lot of value in our conversation, but just a surface level one that I like to ask everybody: what's your favorite restaurant?
My favorite restaurant, I tell you what, Omaline's is a good one. Shout out to Omaline's in Hico, locally owned, great food. Hico, Texas is a great little destination for food. I like Omaline's right now.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
We went there the other night.
Yeah, it's good. Mm-hmm. It's real good.
Appreciate you coming in. Where can they find all your stuff?
You can follow me at Kasey_Mock_outside on Instagram. Mock Ranches across all social platforms, Instagram, social media, Instagram, Facebook are predominantly where we're at. Mm-hmm. And then our podcast, probably the best thing to do is follow that. If you want stuff like this, it's the Land Broker Insider podcast. Yeah, we've got a magazine.
I've listened to some. I mean, it's a lot of real estate related stuff, but you can get something out of it from
there's tons of stuff in there. Yeah, it's a good one. Yes, sir. We cover all markets in Texas. If somebody has a need, we'd be honored to work for them.
Cool.
I appreciate you, man. This has been fun.
Yeah, it has. Well, y'all go follow Kasey and Mock Ranches and share this show out. Hopefully you got something out of it. I don't see why you wouldn't. There's a lot of good business insights in it. So go follow him, share the show, rate and review. If you want to watch it on YouTube or you're listening to it on audio, go follow the Wealthy Cowboy Show on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.